With practice and qualifying in the books, Sonoma has been flipped on its head. New pavement, new package, same old shenanigans. We'll talk DraftKings. We'll update the betting card and do a bunch more on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, we had practice on Friday. We had qualifying about an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago. The field is set. We know where everyone's starting. We know what cars did in practice. And it's just, I'm happy to be sitting here with Joseph Logano, week in full effect.
Look, obviously I didn't add the number on the betting card. If you watched our show, Kyle jumped on that 40-1 price early in the week. We recorded on Tuesday night and Kyle was all over that. I actually accidentally bet it while I was in Vegas and then just added a little bit more for the hell of it, just because the number was crazy. And now he's down to 7-1 in some places. So obviously that is great value, but my guy, the best driver of the weekend so far, in my opinion, Tyler Reddick. Look, practice had probably the best car, as the only car to do a 15-lap run. He's starting on the front row with Logano. I got him at 10-1. I bet it for a decent amount while I was in Sin City, and I'm kind of disappointed I didn't hammer it when I reposted at like 11 or 12 after practice because he didn't throw down a quick lap. But I think a lot of people bought into the single lap speed of a lot of guys during the practice session, when in reality, there were a lot of drivers who were testing whether or not there was any fall off in their tires. Like guys like Reddick, they did not throw down a faux qualifying lap during the practice session. And you got to see their actual speed today during qualifying. And the odds, as we'll look at those later in the show, definitely show that. But yeah, DFS is going to be interesting because there's a lot of really good road racers starting near the middle of the pack or back in the pack. So DraftKings is going to be a lot of fun, or a lot of nightmares this week.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. We're going to definitely have some tough decisions to make. What did you think about the practice on Friday, qualify on Saturday thing? Do you think it makes it more fun, especially from a betting perspective, where maybe you can see lines move a little too much or not enough, and then you can maybe take advantage of it? Or do you think, just knock it all out, get it all done in one afternoon and get ready for the race the next day?
I like it just because it gives us a better idea over who you think is going to be a good car. And obviously, there are people that are smarter than me and you that do this, and they probably saw a little bit more than we did. But when you watch practice, there's a lot more things that you're looking at other than just who's fast. And if you can differentiate between those two types of things when you're looking at that data, a lot of times the sports books aren't as keen to that because they don't have as many people dedicated to dropping lines and all that type of stuff. And as I just alluded to, Reddick reopened at 11 or 12, when in reality, he was probably top three, maybe the best car during the practice session, just because he didn't try to go fast. He just tried to see what the tires were at. I was texting you during the practice session telling you, like, the lap times that Reddick was throwing down when he was in the mid to late 20 amount of laps, he was similar to guys that were on lap 15 or lap 13 on their second run. And so, that the books don't necessarily look at that type of stuff. And so I enjoyed it. And then obviously qualifying, like, I don't think it really is when they do that. I don't think qualifying adjusts the numbers that much, but it definitely helps you now to go back and say, oh, this guy's got track position. I can look at, whether he's going to be fighting for points early, or if they're just set to maybe just go for broke at this race because they know they can't get stage points, or vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, I really wish I'd listened to you on Reddick. I pat myself on the back for Logano. It's a great number, but when he gets like 14th place because he can't actually move through the field, and Tyler Reddick's dominating, and I could have had 11 instead of a 6 or a 5, it's going to feel not awesome. But yeah, I think it's fun. I think it makes for good conversation obviously makes for a little bit of fun on the betting market if you think you can find potential value. We'll see how Reddick does on Sunday. We'll see how Logano does on Sunday. But overall, so far, it's been a good start to the week, as we always do. Let's dive in and we'll talk player pool. We'll talk guys we're in on, guys we're fading, and we'll build some lineups before we dive into the outright card and eventually finish up on our newsletter, which will probably post around 2 a.m. or so. But that's
I was just going to say, there's going to be a lot of research that goes into this because I've been firing from all angles already.
Well, and it's also a little tough because everything's going to end up posting late. So hopefully we can get some matchups and some groups and some manufacturers and that kind of stuff to round out the card, because those bets make things really fun. And, we'll see. Good thing we're out here on the West Coast where we're not burning the 3 a.m., 4 a.m. oil.
Yeah, no kidding.
Although with a teething newborn at home, it's not I might be up anyways. But anyways, let me share my screen here. Present.
You got to be careful with how much of that you mentioned, because you might scare our buddy Chris Wormy from
Wormy, just get ready. Get ready, Wormy. I'm going to talk to him about that tomorrow on the pre-race poll, because
oh man,
it's great. But man, there is some nights where you're like 3 a.m. Like, can I just go to bed, please? That would be fantastic. Yeah. All right. Let's see. So we have 3 drivers. There's a big 9K range. So let's just talk the top 3 options. Truex starting 21st, 10-5. Last year's winner came in as a huge favorite. Obviously did not perform well in practice and qualifying. That number has gotten significantly longer. We'll talk about that.
Thank God neither of us jumped aboard early in the week.
The one thing I think we're figuring out, and there's obviously going to be bumps in the road and all this stuff, but like when there's a handful of options at 6.5 or 6 or 5 that we don't need to fire all of our bullets early, if they look amazing, and even if it goes to 3.5, then we fire at that point, and we take a little less juice than firing on a 6 or 6.5, and then it goes to 16 like it is now. So I think that's being a little patient on that is for sure a smart idea. Byron starting 6th at 10-2, and his teammate Kyle Larson starting 5th at an even 10K. And as you mentioned, had he not bumped the wall, maybe he's on the front row instead of Logano or Reddick. So good group here. Obviously the 200 guys are near the front. You got Marty Party, who everyone loved coming into the week. He's the most expensive option. He left a lot to be desired, but also has tremendous upside. Will probably be pretty popular, but maybe that's warranted. I guess start with Truex first, and then dive into the Hendrick guys.
Yeah, so my worry with Truex is kind of twofold. So not only does he have a ton of traffic to navigate through on a track that has new pavement, and he's even admitted, like, yes, it races like Sonoma, but the repave has adjusted some of the lines that some of the other guys can take now. And so, he's learning as well. And one of his complaints during practice was his rear end grip. And like, we know he likes to ride around and preserve his tires. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that with the new pavement here. And so I worry about him actually being able to move through the field as well as he has in the past. And, if you follow our buddy iFantasy Race, I believe tweeted this out, like the last couple of times he's started around this spot, he's finished like outside the top 15. And so his weekend so far is not a good indication that he's going to be fast. And so I'm a little worried about him. The HMS guys, they're going to be fast. Larson's going to be good. I think Byron's going to be good. Larson, honestly, again, had he not hit the little tire barrier, I believe it was coming out of 7, he's probably on the pole or at least on the front row. And so you're probably looking at him as somebody as a dominator early, because if it's between him and Logano early in a race, like, I'm sorry, I'm going to take Kyle Larson off the front row. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at the 10K stuff. Like, obviously I think Truex is going to garner the most roster percentage. And so I think it's a good leverage to fade him this week.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair. Based on what I'm looking at, it looks like Larson's going to be a little bit higher than Truex, and then Byron's going to be a distant third. So I don't hate going to Byron, especially if you believe in HMS as a whole. We've seen what Byron could do on road courses and how good he was at COTA this year. I think he makes a ton of sense. I think your point on Truex makes sense. He's also a little scary in the fact that people are going to be on him, but like where he's starting, he's going to have to take some risks. He's going to have to stay out and hope for cautions and that kind of stuff. And that seems risky for a guy who's going to be 35% owned. And,
Yeah.
you could easily just not roster him and cut off a nice chunk of the field and expect him to kind of be where he is. Maybe he makes a move and ends up getting luck boxed into a good finish, or he does kind of what Chase Elliott did. I think, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, where he just kind of stayed out
Yeah.
and wasn't really a factor, but also got top 5. So um, I'm kind of
Well,
with you on the trio for the expensive options. So I guess from your perspective, it's Larson, then Byron, and then a distant third is Truex. If in that
yeah.
range.
So another thing too, I think is important to note is like since the 2009 race here, it's like 13 races. The lowest starting position of a race winner here is 14th.
Yeah.
So clearly, like obviously, because we don't get cautions on these tracks that allow everybody to kind of,
Bunch up.
slinky back together, if this gets strung out and he's just kind of stuck behind slow cars, it's going to have a difficult time getting to the front. He's going to have to get off strategy, and how frustrating it can be. And we've seen it before with guys like Truex, Kyle Busch, these old guys like me. When you get frustrated, sometimes you get flustered and it just throws their entire day off. And so
Yeah.
I'm definitely worried about that.
Yeah, if you're telling me this race gets strung out and there's going to be one car way out in front, there's like 2 names that come to mind that will be doing that. One of them is Larson, and then the other one is in the next range as we dive into the 9Ks, because we have Christopher Bell starting 15th. Tyler Reddick is the other guy that I'm thinking of, starts second. As I
sir.
mentioned, tons of speed, looked awesome. 9,500. He could easily get out, be 3 or 4 or 5 seconds in front of everybody, and just kind of Verstappen his way to the beginning from beginning to end. Chase Elliott also looked really good. So obviously HMS 4, 5, and 6. That's pretty nice. We'll see what they can do. It'll be, they can kind of flip flop most of the day and kind of maybe help preserve tires a little bit and keep each other company.
Yeah.
Denny Hamlin starting 25th. We talked about his potential and what we think he could do qualifying. Obviously qualified poorly, was not great on practice. So I'm not really sure what to make of that. Like obviously he's not a super road course guy, but one we thought could be pretty solid. You can get some decent numbers on him, obviously. And then Tyrone Gibbs starting 10th at 9 flat. Interesting range. A couple of early dominators if you don't want to go to the 10K range. Denny, obviously, in the Truex box where, he's starting way in the back. Can he move forward? Can he make noise? And then Ty Gibbs, who's also running the Xfinity race tonight. Hope learning some of the new tracks, seeing what those cars do on the new surface. I guess, is Elliott in the conversation with HMS guys for you, given what the discount you're going to get on his salary? Or if you're diving into a potential dominator in the 9K, it's Reddick or bust.
Yeah, I would actually prefer myself, just because like Larson and Byron are going to be so heavily rostered. I would rather just go to Chase Elliott, knowing how good he had been before the next gen car, basically on road courses. And something I've been repeating at a ridiculous amount of times this week is that, to me, the repave has kind of brought the field back together, and the practice and qualifying was really a show of who is actually going to be able to run this track well. And I think the fact that Elliott hadn't been as good on road courses in the next gen car, the repave to me kind of brought him back to the fold as one of the contenders. But if we're looking at this 9K range, the conversation doesn't start anywhere but the 45 team. I was on Reddick earlier in the week, poo-poo his finishing results here at Sonoma. I didn't care about that because both times he had been running okay. He'd been running perfectly fine inside the top 10. He had issues in both of those tracks. And if anybody is going to be able to get to the front of the field and simply just run away because of the way that he can maneuver through road courses, it's Tyler Reddick. And if you're going to tell me that there's a guy who can get to the front, lead the majority of the race, and also throw down a shitload of fast laps, it's going to be Reddick for me. And you're saving almost $1,000 on him as compared to Kyle Larson or William Byron, who are starting multiple spots behind him.
Yeah. Reddick's start was 11th in 5-lap averages, but jumped to second, and then ended up first as the only guy who could run. Only guy who ran 15 laps, as you mentioned. Limited fall off, was really testing the kind of the long run, and then it was able to go out and qualifying today and put the one lap together, which I think would also, we kind of talked a little bit about kind of separating practice and qualifying. I think that would make things interesting if they're able to like do something in qualifying and then actually put down their fast lap put down their fast lap on qualifying, but also be able to test some longer run stuff in practice and not have it really impact the cars kind of overall speed.
And I think real quick, like just hitting on that point one more time, that's where monitoring the lap times during practice is extremely important, because you can see who's out there just running as opposed to who is going for a hot lap. And it really does affect guys like lap averages as well. When you have guys that run a 73 or something versus everyone else is running 74s, but they were hot lapping, so it's going to make their 5-lap average a little bit better because they have that one lap that was ridiculously fast.
Yeah, no, I think that's a phenomenal point. Is Hamlin in the Truex bucket for you in terms of like could be tempting? Obviously has speed, but based on what we saw in practice and qualifying in the starting position, might be an easy guy to fade because, I mean, based on what I'm looking at, he's going to have 55% roster percentage. Obviously, contest selection is going to be important. He's going to probably, vary a little bit depending on what exactly you're doing. But
have people watched Denny Hamlin on road courses start from the front the last year?
I think it's just basically they think he's been so good this year. He's shown speed. And maybe this is going to be a good thing for him because whenever he qualifies well, he ends up crashing or having an incident. So now he's going to start in the back and fly to the front and win the race.
I hear that, but to me, Hamlin is a guy who you also have to account for. So Denny is well into the playoffs already with the amount of wins that he already has. He's got 3 victories. They're not going to be going for stage points. Like, they're going to be going for the win. And so they're going to be pushing it a little bit harder than a lot of other guys, which opens up the possibility of more issues, in my opinion. Like,
or maybe he just stays out, tries to get the stage 2 victory, knowing that could cost them in stage 3, and they end up finishing back in like 17th place.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's going to happen because we've already heard that team, Chris Gerhardt and him, they talked about Denny. He wants to win. Like, he doesn't care about points or any of that crap. Like, he wants to win races. Hell, this is the same guy that says he would rather win a ton of races and not have a championship. So, I mean, like, week in and week out, he's looking for the trophy. He's not worried about
But if he knows, like, he knows he's locked in, he's just trying to get a few playoff points. I don't know. Let's play either, neither, or both. Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin. Either, neither, or both.
Honestly, neither. I'm really fading these guys because of their roster percentage in DFS.
Yeah, you definitely don't need to fade both of them in every lineup, but I would avoid using both of them for sure.
Oh yeah.
Especially because that puts you in a dilly of a pickle. Let's talk the 8K range. We got Allmendinger starting 11th, who's also running in the Xfinity race. Chris Buescher, who underwhelms pretty significantly, starting 26, 8,600. McDowell starting 12th. Ross Chastain starting in the top 10, 8,300. Trackhouse looked good. Austin Cindric back in 28th. I wish I could have faded him more with the Trackhouse guys. I was looking at both of those. They're pretty decent prices, but it was like, Trackhouse, they're just, loosey with the football as of lately, and they still may pull the football out.
I got Ryan Blaney plus 110 over Austin Cindric while I was in Vegas.
That's beautiful. And then Daniel Suarez, the other Trackhouse guy, starting 7th at 8K. Let's start with Trackhouse. Two guys starting in the top 10. Are they interesting to you?
I definitely think you have to consider them as drivers that are going to be pushing for wins. Because Suarez, yes, he's got that victory from Atlanta that he's in the playoffs, but I mean, outside of that, like he's had a horrendous year, and this is a course that he's already won on before. And Trackhouse, for like a good half a year or so, they were considered maybe the best overall team on road courses for a while, with both Chastain and Suarez winning. So they've definitely got my attention. I was saying this earlier in the week, like I had zero interest in them until I saw what they had. And clearly they've got something good, with both of these cars looking pretty good in qualifying and decent in practice. And so I don't mind getting to these guys and knowing that, I mean, we're going to talk about him in the next range, but three of the last four winners at Sonoma started 8th. And so this range of guys 7 through 9 is really intriguing from both a DFS and an outright perspective. If you have zero exposure to Chastain already, I don't mind going back to the well at 16. I don't mind playing him in DFS. And you can get some good numbers on both Suarez and Bowman as well.
Yeah, I think if you're trying to be a little different, going to Suarez instead of Chastain might be an interesting way to play it. I think that's what I might do. I will say Suarez has qualified in the top 10 3 of the last 4 years. One of those finishes was 17th. One of them was 22nd, which was last year. And then obviously his win in 2022. So wide range of results for him. He either kind of falls away or wins the damn race. So we'll see what he does on Sunday. But I think given what we saw, he's interesting. I don't know that I necessarily want to use both of them on Sunday in the same lineup. But we'll build some lineups and see how we feel about pricing and all that good stuff. McDriver starting 12th.
I still like him. Look,
Yeah.
I think he did plenty to warrant attention still. Like you got to think he's starting 12th. That means he barely missed out on cracking the second round of qualifying, which his speed probably would have picked up,
I'll tell you what, he is, if you're looking for a leverage play, McDowell is looking like a very nice leverage play, single digit ownership, sub 5% at this point. I think makes an interesting play, especially if you want to just fade Trackhouse as a whole. You think both those teams both those drivers kind of fall off and don't really do what they showed in qualifying. In this range, he could be a nice way to pivot off that.
Yeah, and I also think on McDowell real fast, I believe he was in Group A during qualifying, which was significantly slower than Group B was as a whole. And, you kind of have to look at that and consider, like, had McDowell or some of these Group A guys gone out with Group B, would they have been as fast? And so, I think I think McDowell and Buescher to a lesser extent, like I'm a little concerned about what we saw out of them, but McDowell is a road course guy. Like he's going to be going for the win. And so obviously there's a lot more risk there, but he is a guy that I could definitely see making some weird moves on pit road and stuff to gain track position throughout the day.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And he's a guy we've seen do well on road courses. So I think he could be a nice pivot if you're looking kind of like a mid-pack driver. Buescher, he's in that same bucket as Truex, as Hamlin. We were both pretty excited about him coming into the week. I have him on the outright card. Now he's starting 26th, 8,600. Obviously has a high ceiling if he gets things figured out and can kind of gain track position. But like, do we trust him to do that?
I don't know, man. I think in the same, like he's in the same conversation as like Denny Hamlin for me, and Truex too. Like one or the other. Who would you rather play? Who's starting outside the top 20, Truex or Buescher?
I mean, Buescher feels pretty nice given there's a lot. He's 8,600, so you're saving what, 3K almost, or 2K on him. And you
okay. So, but who do you have more faith in?
probably Truex, just given what we've seen. But like, I also know him and his crew chief sometimes make some interesting decisions that end up really
I don't
costing
even know
them.
if they make decisions sometimes though. Him and James
Famously,
Small, like I feel like they're just they like to they're like an old married couple. They bicker.
and I think like Truex, it's like when your wife tells you, "Oh, you got to turn left up here. You got to turn left up here," and then you just like go straight and go a different way just to prove her wrong. Like
Yeah,
that's.
exactly.
I feel like
Exactly.
Truex is doing that. He's like, dude, just stop talking to me for like 2 minutes. I
Yeah,
got this.
exactly.
Um, yeah, I don't. I mean, I think it's close enough where the $2,000 salary savings makes it pretty easily Busher for me. But obviously, Truex has the highest upside of that whole group. But projection wise, half less ownership saves you $2,000. I think he makes a lot of sense.
All right. So one last question about this range though. Who's your favorite guy in this 8K?
I think it's McDowell.
Damn, this is not good because that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like I know I actually really like Chastain now. Like obviously I slow played the Trackhouse guys. I wanted to see them unload, and clearly they're good. But
Yeah.
to me, it's a toss up between McDowell and Chastain. I think they both have race winning upside. You save a little bit of money with Chastain, and I think it's all dependent on your roster construction if you need that extra $200 because I think both are going to be really good.
Yeah, I think I go McDowell, Suarez, Chastain.
Ooh, you like Suarez a little bit better than Watermelon.
Yeah, just because I think he's a third of the ownership. He has just as high of
Oh,
a
that's a good point.
ceiling, and he's won the race. So
Okay, yeah, good point.
that's just kind of I'm the ultimate contrarian, even when facts and logic may suggest I go the other way. If I were talking betting, maybe I'm a little more interested in Chastain, but for DFS, I think Suarez makes more sense. Let's talk 7K. Blaney starting third. Kyle Busch starting 29th. We have some names starting in the back of the pack that are gonna.
I'm telling you, man, this is a tough week.
I wonder if the squirrels are a little less squirrely back there, if that makes
Oh
sense.
man.
Bowman starting 8th. Uh, my boy Joey Logano. I mean, if you want to get expensive at the top and just go Logano on the pole as your dominator, go for it. I love that idea. Will Brown, Kim Waters, and Brad Keselowski round out the 7K range. Obviously, some newbies, some veterans, and Blaney and Bowman. I guess a lot to get into. Any interest in Blaney? Let's start there. Blaney or Logano as potential early dominators.
Honestly, not really. I know that they're super cheap, but I have zero faith in either of them to sustain and win on
Yeah,
a road course.
but we did like Blaney. Like, I love Logano's number,
Well, that's
but
the
from a
that's the thing.
pure racing perspective, I think Blaney is pretty undervalued at this track specifically. So I think I'm a little more open to that idea of him being something that we could potentially go to.
Yeah, but so to me, I look at this as you play you. I like trends and I like numbers and I like what I see. To me, it's much more likely that Logano, especially Logano, for instance, tries to get the stage wins to get those playoff points, and then tries to do some weird ass move late to win the race when he finishes outside the top 10, as it is that he makes the correct move in stage one and pits, 3 laps before the end of the stage to set himself up for the first pit, like starting the pit cycle in stage two to go for the win, and even being able to maintain up front when you have guys like Reddick, Larson, Byron, Elliott, Allmendinger, McDowell. Like there are so many better road course racers starting just behind these guys that I have zero faith in them to stay up front.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little more optimistic, especially since Logano hasn't won, that he'll, like, if he's having a good race, if he falls off and he's already in like 12th before the end of stage one, maybe he stays out and tries some wild shit. But if he's anywhere near the top 5, I think he pits accordingly and makes good decisions and puts his car in position, because as we've seen, even with him, he finds a way to stick where he needs to be and make it work, even in a car that doesn't always have it. So if he has a car with speed and showed what he showed today, I'm a little more optimistic that he can kind of stay out there, do what he needs to do, and be a legitimate force. And I think we're building 3 lineups today. I think we're going to build a 4th one, and it's going to be a single entry, and I'm going to force us to start with Logano as our dominator.
Oh no.
Oh
God.
yeah. Let's talk 6K. Briscoe, Gilliland, Hocevar, Bubba Wallace, Justin Haley, Austin Dillon, Noah Gragson, John Hunter Nemechek. What a disgusting group of racers. If you have to pick one name out of the group, is there a name that jumps out above the rest?
Well, the only guy in this range that I haven't I have a placement bet on for a very small amount is Austin Dillon top 10 at 10-1. So, I thought this coming into the week. I thought RCR was going to look okay, which, obviously the single lap speed wasn't there, but you're talking about like Kyle Busch has been incredible at Sonoma. The new track changes things. Same conversation we're having with Truex, but I think that they're still going to be able to work their way and just have a decent race. And Dillon, for what it's worth, has had a ton of low to mid-teen finishes on road courses. So I think of these guys, he's the best option. But do I think he's going to make a difference in DFS and, give you a bunch of placement points at fast laps? No. So I probably go further down the list and just go Justin Haley, just because of how solid he's been this year and his ability to avoid wrecking out of races, falling laps down, and just being safe. I think he offers the best placement differential from this group and somebody who could potentially pop, I guess.
With Austin Dillon, do you like the fact that he started 6th, 13th, and 11th, or do you not like the fact that despite having decent finishes, he's fallen back in 2 of those 3 races, and only one did he actually move forward, and it was only 2 spots. So he started 6th, ended up 13th. He started 13th, ended up 11th, and started 11th and ended up 19th. So he's been a guy
that's like his
perpetually
car
goes
on these
backwards. But last year he got to 6th after stage 2. He was 6th after stage 1, but he started 6th. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to convince myself that one of these guys are at least worth a conversation. Chase Briscoe?
No, I'm not getting there with him. He's $600 more than even Austin Dillon for. I mean, it's 7 spots, but if you're going to give me the option between Briscoe and Haley, I'm going to save the $500 and take Haley, who's starting 4 spots behind him.
Yeah.
Who's just been overall better this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Oh, gross.
Yeah, it's a rough range. It's probably an avoid range, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but that means we're gonna have to go into the 5K range. I don't know if I feel any better about Eric Jones, Josh Berry, Ryan Preece, Corey LaJoy, Ricky Stenhouse, Zane Smith, Daniel Hemrick, Kaz Gralla, and Harrison Burton.
Yeah, it's not good.
Stenhouse, Kazman, Preece. I hate all of it.
Yeah, it's just not good.
Like
Just
anyone?
for the fact that I was able to jump on the fat finger price of the top Ford market for Josh Berry, and he got. I'm playing the odds here. He's spun in both practice and qualifying. I
So
don't think he's going to doing the race.
He doesn't complete the trifecta, is what you're saying.
Yes, and so I think he keeps the wheels on it, and he can start 32nd and possibly finish 25th.
That sounds like a story you're trying to tell yourself.
I am. I'm trying to convince myself of that. Yes.
I don't know, man. I feel yeah, that feels like a bridge too far. I don't know. I guess let's build some lineups and see how gross we have to actually get.
Yeah, because
So lineup number 1, do we want to start with Larson? Do we want to start with your boy Tyler Reddick? Do we want to
let's get your Logano thing out of the way,
Oh
please.
baby, we're going to start with the gross, huh?
Yeah, let's get the
I
gross
love it.
out
I
of here,
love it.
please.
Dominate Joey Logano. Okay. So if we're starting Logano, that means we have lots of salary to play with. We don't even have to go all the way up to these guys if we don't want. We could, avoid some of the like disgusting names
All
and
right.
kind of build a balance build. But I don't know if I'm going to feel good about that either.
Okay, so because we're starting Logano in a Ford, let's add his like pseudo teammate for the remainder of the year, Michael McDowell.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, if we're gonna add somebody that can give us some placement points, yeah, I don't hate that, and this definitely opens up a lot of possibilities.
Yeah. Do we
We
want?
didn't really talk about him, but Kyle Busch, 29th.
Stop me if this is too gross.
Oh my gosh, that is bad.
So but see, this what we can do is if we want, we could potentially take Busher off, and then we could do 2 expensive or more expensive guys, or we could take Dylan off and then try and find some value. So, would you
I
rather
don't.
go
You know
like
what though?
hmm,
That's a good point because now you can get 2 guys that like a Reddick.
or Chase Elliott, and then I know you like him.
What about Chastain?
We could do Chastain.
Because I think that spreads our people out too. No, yeah, you do Elliott and Chastain.
Elliott and Chastain. That leaves us like 2,600. So we either punt on McDowell and go up to like whoever we want,
I'd rather
or
punt on Dylan and get another mid tier guy.
McDowell, and then that gives us 8,900. So we can do Dinger, Busher, Cindric, Suarez, Bowman.
I'd rather go to
Busher?
Busher than Dylan, honestly.
Yeah,
I know he's way more expensive, but
kind of like that. Kind of like that. I might do another single entry and swap Chastain out for Suarez, but I like that. We'll save that. Let's go
all
back
right.
to the well.
This one's got to be Reddick.
Okay.
He's winning the race. I've been saying it all week. I'm sticking to my guns. Tyler Reddick is winning this race tomorrow.
Tyler Reddick. All right. Well, I think we'll do Suarez since we did Chastain the other one.
All right. Let's do Justin Haley just for the feels.
Oh baby. I'm not sure those are the feels I'm looking for, but feels like I gotta throw up a little bit, but we'll make it
Hey,
work.
we've mentioned this before. A lot of times those are the lineups that win.
Very true. Do we dare go back to Kyle Busch? Do you have any interest in the RFK boys? Do we want to do a Truex or any other Toyota stuff, Denny?
Yeah, I think this is a spot where you try to squeeze in.
I mean, Truex is definitely the lower rostered, obviously more expensive, so it's gonna be hard for people to get to him. Let's put him in and see what it gives us.
Okay.
And then we'll see. We can always go down to Denny if it really makes us feel better. But going Reddick, Suarez, Haley, I feel like is fine to do Denny or Truex, probably not both.
Yeah.
Kyle Busch is pretty affordable if you want to come down here. Bowman's down here if you want to do that, but we could save that for the next lineup. We could do Dylan.
Is there a way that we could like adjust DFS scoring and have like the guy to gain the least amount of positions and just put Brad Keselowski in there because
We
he's
should
just going
do
to ride in the
reverse
back?
DFS scoring, and you get whoever has the lowest points, like golf, wins
Yeah.
that week. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, give me Brad Keselowski. if that's the case.
Yeah. Although he would do like you would be out on him for the week, and he would do just enough to get like 11th or 15th, and
That's true.
actually not be that bad.
Yeah, he would do that just to spite everybody for sure.
All right. So, do we want to do like a Bowman Bush thing? Do we want to go down and get it really gross, like a Stenhouse, and then go back up and get someone way more expensive?
I think
What's
that
your?
can make sense because it's going to save us a ton of
If
money.
we
So
do
yeah, we could do Stenhouse.
Stenhouse, then that lets us basically do
Oh, Kyle
anyone.
Larson.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
there's no
feel
question.
much better about Stenhouse Larson than I do about Kyle
Bowman
Busch and
Bush.
Alex Bowman.
I mean, look, I'm going to say it right now. I already mentioned it. 3 of the last 4 winners started from 8th position. I'm personally betting Alex Bowman 20-1.
Okay.
He looked fine in practice and qualifying. I think he's got a good car, and we've seen him do it before where he backs his way into wins on road courses.
And I could see Reddick and Larson just chasing each other around the track all day and being the top 2 cars and trading off dominating the race and being most important. And then maybe Truex squeezes out a top 8 finish, Suarez top 5, and you feel really, really good about the lineup.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to create another lineup based on what we've been talking about and something you just said. William Byron, Alex Bowman. You have the T. What would you like next?
We don't have him in any lineup,
Oh, no.
and I feel like that's a massive mistake. Dinger the ringer.
Okay. I will say I don't know how I feel about Dinger for DFS. Like I feel like as a basically full-time Xfinity guy that dabbles, like he's gonna make some silly decisions that could potentially hurt him. But
You got to think though. Again, he's trophy hunting. Like he's going to try to be there at the end to win the race.
Fair, but he also might do what he did a couple years ago and end up going backwards late. Where is he at? I'm gonna put Kyle Busch in. Of the guys starting in the 20th, he feels like he has a good chance to move forward. We're both really excited about him, and you're getting a disc. You're not paying the 10K for Truex or the 8K for or 9K for Hamlin or even the 8K for Busher. So
True.
I think he feels nice. 7,900. Do we want to mess around with the Blaney or Logano or
Look,
any other?
one lineup with a Logano in it is enough for me.
Could do like an Elliott, but I guess Byron and Bowman. Do you want to do like an Elliott, Haley, Elliott, Dillon thing, especially since we're doing Kyle Busch, or do you want to get Elliott out
I'd
of
rather
there?
go to Barry than Dillon on it. Like I don't really like. I know I talked about Dillon, but in that range, I just like that range sucks. But I would rather save the salary.
Yeah, I mean, we could do Kyle Larson again. We could do. We haven't said Christopher Bell like once for anything. Is he
Yeah, but
just
do people really think Christopher Bell is like going to drive through the field on a road course?
the thing about Christopher Bell is the week that people don't think he's going to do anything is the week that he's going to blow the field away. We saw that last week. He should have won.
Yeah,
And the weeks that everyone's all in on him and he's going to be the best car and this, that, and the third is the when he
and
is a
his stuff's
ghost.
going to blow up. Yeah.
So if we do Barry, we can do other stuff. If we go lower, we could do Gibbs, we could do McDowell, and then that gives us if we did like an 85, that gives us 73. So we could do one of these guys, or we could just do. I mean, let's do Barry, and that opens up everything.
Did you want to just do Bell for the hell of it? I'm not high on Bell.
Yeah, I mean, let's see here.
Okay, what are your thoughts on Ty Gibbs? We haven't even mentioned his name, and yet he looked good in practice. He looked fine in qualifying. He's qualified 10th.
I don't hate it.
He's running the Xfinity race, so he's going to get a good feel for the lines that need to be run. I mean, he's not anywhere on the top 20 right now as I look up with 9 to go in stage 2 as we record this, but
That's not great.
I mean, it's Xfinity. It means nothing.
I will say,
Oh, no, he's leading the race. My apologies. He's up front.
let's see. It gives us an extra 1,000 to play with.
Yeah, but this group is gross.
Oh yeah, for sure. But if we go Josh Berry, that gets us to 87. Then we could do Busher, or McDowell, or Chastain, or Cindric.
Did we do a lineup with Suarez?
I think the last one had Suarez. Trying to remember. Because, like, do you feel better about Busher or McDowell than Kyle Busch, or should Kyle Busch just be in the lineup? And
I like Busch to work his way and get a top 10, but in terms of like being able to win the race, I like McDowell better. Just being honest.
do you like Gilliland or Hocevar, Bubba Wallace, or Justin Haley's more than Josh Berry? Or should we just eat the 1,000? Like, I'm trying to, like, I don't feel like eating the $1,000 if it doesn't make sense, but I'm also not going to make my lineup like worse or like not one.
I don't. Okay, I don't. I see Todd Gilliland losing
to Josh
spot.
Berry.
Yeah. It's Berry because he's basically starting in the back already.
The other option is we pull Bowman out and we go to like McDowell, but I think based on what you said and how you feel about Bowman,
I think Bowman's going to be good.
Yeah. Fuck it. Let's just make it a lineup. No need to reinvent the wheel. Obviously open to ideas if it makes sense, but like if we have to leave salary on the table for a lineup we feel more comfortable with, then I'm gonna do it. All right, so we have 3 lineups: Elliott, Busher, McDowell, Chastain, Busch, Logano, Truex, Larson, Reddick, Suarez, Haley, Stenhouse, Byron, Gibbs, Dinger, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, Josh Berry. Is there anyone that I didn't mention that you're like, I really want some exposure to him on Sunday? We have no Denny.
He's not.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
I kind of wish I could use some more Larson in my life, but we're building 3 lineups. It's fine.
I will say that
we don't have any.
I would be okay like using Larson and Reddick in the majority of my lineups.
Yeah. I think Larson Elliott is going to be a fun start too.
Yeah, I think those guys are going to be the class of the field.
Yeah. Okay, almost 50 minutes in. I want to look at some outright odds, and then we can get out of here.
Let's do it.
I will refresh the page just to make sure that numbers haven't moved since we started talking. Kyle Larson. What's that?
Caesars has numbers?
They do. Kyle Larson, 4.5. Tyler Reddick, 575. Chase Elliott, 650. Logano, 650.
That's ridiculous.
Of the guys inside 10 to 1, are you considering betting and or adding either to the card? Any of the above to the card?
The only one, man. It's really hard because we talked about it you mentioned it earlier in the show. When the books open up numbers and you have so many guys priced so close together, they clearly don't have a good feel for who's the favorite. And yes, Larson was fast, but Reddick looked fast as hell. And Chase Elliott, we all know his prowess on road courses. And so, I think those 3 guys are priced probably accordingly. I have zero interest in Joey Logano at plus.
Yeah, if you miss the boat, you miss the boat. It's like Truex last year. It's like you can't bet him at the new number. Like you just can't do it. I mean, you can do whatever you want. It's your money, but if you're trying to be a winning better long term. I just don't think it's a move that you can make.
Now, when we dive into the double digit guys, like, yes, there are some people I would still be.
So let's dive in there because I think we're both in agreement that like Larson's fine if you want to get there, or Chase Elliott if you're insisting on betting that, or even Reddick. But like it's none of them are getting added to either of our cards.
No.
Let's talk double digits. We have Ryan Blaney at 10. We have Tyrone Gibbs at 12. We have William Byron at 12. We have Ross Chastain at 15. We have Dinger at 15. And we have Martin Truex at 15. Has the Truex bounce gone too far? Should he be closer to like 10, 12? Or do you think, given what we've seen, 15, 16, whatever you get him at, is still kind of an avoid number?
I think Truex is going to be a guy that you look at his odds during the race. And if he's able to make some moves, like the longer we get into a run and we stay green for a little while and he starts to make his way towards the front, I think you add that. But I really can't get there at 15. So I like Byron at 12. It's a little bit longer than his price opened up at.
Yeah.
But the next two guys, like if you didn't get Chastain at 30 or 25, I don't mind getting in at 15. And I'm telling you, AJ Allmendinger at 15 or 16 is to me still great value for a guy that in the past he would open to under 10 to 1 and close at that number, for on road courses. Like I think he's going to be fine during the race. And so he's a guy that I'd be looking at. And then my favorite bet right now for price and value is Bowman at 20.
All right, so before we get to Bowman, let's talk. So Chastain, Dinger, Truex are all 15. Rank them in terms of if you were to step to the window, which one would you bet first, second, and third?
Wait, who is it? Truex, Chastain, Dinger?
Yeah.
So Truex is going to be last.
Okay.
Yeah, Truex is last.
So you want Chastain as your first bet, or you want Dinger as your first bet?
I'd probably go Dinger, honestly. Just I trust him more on road courses.
Yeah, I bet him at 16. I like 15 just fine. It's close enough. Bowman 20. See if there's a better number. Yeah, 20 is the best you're gonna get. So you like that? Starting 8th, showed some speed. Can he really beat his Hendrick teammates all looking awesome and Reddick or whatever Ford happens to still be up front?
Sure, why not?
Because he's Alex Bowman.
And I think that's why his number is where it is. Like,
yeah, he was 8th after 5 in 5 lap average. He was 3rd in 10 lap average.
I'm telling you, like there's some value there with the 48 this week.
So have you added it to the card?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm adding Bowman.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's definitely an interesting post qualifying number. I think it makes sense. I think if that was Chase Elliott who had done the same thing, or even William Byron, it's a lot less. Obviously, he starts higher, so
no, exactly. Like it's name value for sure.
McDriver 22.
Yeah, I don't hate that either.
Christopher Bell 28.
No, I just don't have any. I don't have a feel for Bell. He's not a guy that normally pops when his number is so long.
Yeah, I feel like he's gonna just like be in traffic most of the day and like finish 14th or something. What about Buescher at 30? Are you just out on him at this point, given what we've seen? Because he was fine in 5 lap, he just qualified poorly.
So something that really caught my attention, I listened to the Bet the Board, the Stay Green podcast with Todd Furman and Chris Wormy, and something he mentioned about Chris Buescher is he's been really good at road courses, but he hasn't really had a race-winning car in any of those events. And that's something that's kind of stuck with me the further along in the week as we've gotten. And so I don't necessarily trust that he's a guy that could race for the win with the equipment that he has this weekend. Like clearly they've missed it compared to everybody else. And so they've got a lot of ground to make up. And so in the same way for Martin Truex for me, I'd rather bet him live than even get in on this 30-1 number when earlier in the week I was excited to grab him at 16. So
Yeah. It's
and I like added 25 before qualifying, expecting him to be able to run faster in qualifying, and clearly that wasn't the case.
Yeah, man, it's hard. Like, I have such a like I'm so gun shy about these longer numbers post practice and qualifying, because like if you bet them pre and and they show out, you go, okay, got it, makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but when you bet them after, it's just like the books are telling you, and obviously there's opportunity. It's times you can get value, and sometimes you can bet him live, and maybe he is a guy you bet live. You're like, oh no, he's coming. He looks really good. You're gonna need a something to happen to kind of keep him out there. But I probably just like I think Bowman's the end of the line for me. Like I could tell myself a story where McDowell makes sense. I don't even know if Bowman's there, honestly. I might stop at Dinger. Like Bowman, I get this. I get the conversation. I think it makes sense, but I think for me, I think it might be a bridge too far.
Yeah, and I think too, like you have to also account for like the goals of some of these teams. And so, a guy like Bowman, he's seen his HMS teammates all win races. They want to get all 4 cars into the playoffs. What better way to do that than for him to go for a win here on a course that he hasn't been the best at Sonoma, but he's been decent in road courses in the past. And I think the same can be said for a guy like Chris Buescher, who's been so close already this year. And so that's why for him in particular, I'm looking at live odds, because if you see early on that they're going to go on the strategy to go for the win as opposed to play for points, then you bet him outright. Because right now, where he's starting, if early on in the race they concede that they don't have a race winning car and you can tell that they're going for stage points, then you'll be happy that you didn't add his number.
I think that's a phenomenal point. Like this is a great live betting opportunity if you see cars that are going to be aggressive and they're on the winning the race strategy, and you see that okay, they're pitting at the right times, they're following the leaders. Then maybe you get a little more interested in their outright numbers. Where if you're like, nope, they're just staying out, they're going to take their points and they're going to be happy, and the announcers should be pretty good. This is the last Fox race, so last hurrahs for Kevin Harvick, who I think has been a pretty nice addition to the booth. I'm curious to see what next year in year 2 will look like for him. Obviously, Clint Boyer, Mike Joy, all that stuff. So we'll see as we switch over to NBC how much fun. I'm a little nervous about the Jeff Burton experience. I don't love that as much, but they're fine for the most part.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is outrights, that is DraftKings, that is all the fun stuff. Brian and I are gonna now end the show. We will go write our newsletter, so make sure you are subscribed to that. If you've made it this far, aoppodcast.substack.com. We'll have DraftKings write-ups, we'll have bet write-ups, we'll have our full betting cards on there. We'll have the video links. We'll have, if there's other stuff that you'd like to see in there every week, let us know. As of right now, pre-qualifying, I have Buescher at 16, I have Logano at 40, and I have Dinger at 16. I may add one more outright, but I'm probably done. Brian has Reddick at 10, KFB at 30, Buescher at 16, added Dinger at 16, added Bowman at 20. I assume you're done?
We'll see.
We'll see. All right. Well, make sure you are subscribed to the free newsletter. It'll be in your inbox every race day. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the race, cash some tickets, win some money on DraftKings, and we'll talk to you next time.